Irish pub in Disney Springs. Her husband was able to administer an EpiPen, but she would later die. Something she made very clear.
Oh, get Ben.
Her death as a result of this gross negligence is mind-boggling. You'd think that after such a tragic event,
don't touch what you can't afford.
Do anything to make the situation right, especially since Disney publicly advertises this dedication to food safety for its guests. Like, that's one of their main sort of things because it is incredibly important. But you know, that's not true. Unsurprisingly, Disney is fighting the husband in court, and Tung Swan's husband, Jeffrey, sued the Walt Disney Company for $50,000 in his wife. However, Disney's lawyers have recently come out and said that the case should be dismissed and resolved by individual arbitration because Jeffrey signed up for a free Disney Plus trial years ago. And you might be wondering, how the f is that possible? Why is that even relevant? In the terms of service for Disney Plus, it is stated that any dispute between you and us, the Disney Corporation, except for small claims, is subject to a class action waiver and must be resolved by individual binding arbitration. Arbitration court is a knife, and this is so evil. But of course, since he agreed to the terms and services of the platform, he also agreed to that stipulation, which Disney's lawyers argues makes the case invalid. The wrongful death of his wife is invalidated because he signed up for a free Disney Plus trial years ago. Also, the same terms of service are agreed upon when you buy a ticket to the park, but specifically the Disney Plus arbitration is what's at call. And unfortunately, since the couple arrived at the park on the day of Tung Swan's death, they agreed to those terms that day, making it more likely that the case would even be thrown out then. So it's like, I don't know, dude. Why not just try to make it right instead of being like, well, you agreed to the terms of service. We can't afford this. We're trying to preserve the magic of our anti-Semitic king, Walt. His head's frozen. It's in the back. Disney's lawyers also repeatedly stated that the restaurant from which she ate is not owned by Disney, and therefore this lawsuit shouldn't be directed at them, even though it occurred inside of their own park. Disney's straight up telling this man in 2024 his wife's death is not their fault because he signed up for a free trial of Disney Plus. And what makes this even worse is Jeffrey said that he signed up for his free trial on his PlayStation and then canceled it soon after. Jeffrey's lawyers argue that there is nowhere in the terms of service that states that Disney could dismiss the death of his wife and that the claims made by Disney are absurd because they are. And it will be interesting to me to see how this plays out and to all of us. It's crazy, mind-boggling. How is this a thing? There's a very obvious right way to handle the situation. It's not by saying, well, years ago, actually, you signed up to Disney Plus, so, you know, take me out, bozo. I just can't even imagine. That is signed up to Disney Plus.
Oh, get fucked.
As soon as I found this out. I'm not one for like boycotts and stuff. Really, I don't really care that much about stuff. This is just insane. This is the worst company that exists. This is crazy. There's a lot more context though that we should get into to kind of go down the Disney rabbit hole. You know, that's obviously a very new story. Things like that have happened in the past. I'll get into that. There's one story about a little boy. Crazy. It's unbelievable that this company has done all these things.
You're in trouble now.
But if we're going to properly encapsulate the level of evil that Disney has done, we need to start with what made them famous in the first place. Their awesome movies. Disney has produced animation since the late 1920s, with their first project being Steamboat Willie. Ever heard of it? Public domain. Haha, there he is. There's the mouse. Look, I own him. He's mine. It's got my name on it. Look, that's my signature on that. Isn't that awesome? I own it. Shut up, Frankie. It was released in 1928. It's old as It's a terrible animation. It's innocent, very poorly made. Just kidding. They made this shit in 1928. That's impressive. They weren't doing a lot in 1928, I've got to say. Really, they weren't doing much. This animation, pretty innocent. Things would go downhill quickly from here. One of Disney's first and most popular animated films, Fantasia, contained imagery of a black centaurette named Otica serving a white centaurette. If you couldn't tell what makes this bad, it is how each character in the show is depicted. If you would like me to really spell it out for you. One of the very first scenes where both characters are, Otica is polishing Sunflower's hooves, and the characters' designs are very racist, based on old minstrel shows. For those of you who do not know, minstrel shows were incredibly popular attractions in the 1800s, back when people were incredibly racist. They were very popular. It's why black people were often portrayed as idiotic, scary, infantile, it's terrible, it's horrible. Eventually, the characters from the minstrel shows would be turned into racist stereotypes after slavery was abolished and used during the Jim Crow era, which was named after a popular minstrel show character.
Under the Separate but Equal Clause, the U.S. Supreme Court legitimizes segregation and social discrimination, treating black people as second-class citizens, known collectively as Jim Crow laws, after a racial depiction performed in blackface. These laws reinforce racial prejudice and deny rights to black people in the United States.
So yeah, I'm just laying this out because it gives us context as to, where Disney's really coming from. But yeah, back to Fantasia.
That's the sound of death.
Depicted in an incredibly disrespectful manner. Sure, you can say, it was the times, everyone was racist. They were just doing what was cool, this was cool back then. Racism, woo! Or whatever but it's like, all right, well, that same company exists now, and yeah, and they're still kind of like up to no good. The pendulum has swung so far that they're still just evil. Fantasia came out in 1940 when Jim Crow was still very much around and prevalent in American culture, but Fantasia is not the only early film to have these racist depictions and more. Starting with Dumbo, which was released in 1941. In the film, there is a murder of crows that Dumbo meets and teaches him how to appreciate his ears.
What's all the rook? Come on, step aside, brother.
Now, while the message is positive, the designs of the crows aren't. They designed the crows off of minstrel show characters. I saw this movie as a kid. I didn't know what the was going on. I have no idea. Looking back at this as an adult now, I'm like, wow, that's insane. One of them's named Jim Crow. Okay. So yeah, positive message, but veiled race. Not even really veiled. The main crow's named Jim Crow. They didn't even thinly veil it. And it's just like right there. And then I guess nobody knew, or I don't really know. I didn't know as a kid. I was like, wow, that guy's name's Jim Crow. That's a cool name. That's a funny name. And then I went to school because I was no longer 5 years old. By the way, they omitted the crows in their 2019 remake of Dumbo. Good job, Disney. Very, very, very good. Very, very, very good. So you get racism against black people. How about racism against Native Americans? In Peter Pan, guys, which came out in 1953. In the film, the natives had deep red-colored skin. They spoke broken English and had stereotypical headdresses and clothing. You got Aristocats, came out in 1970, had a very stereotypical depiction of the Asian cat with small eyes, chopsticks, and broken English, looking like Mickey Rooney.
Get bent.
Racist and stereotypical depictions of pretty much everybody.
Oh, this guy fucked around and found out.
And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, no, don't be so soft. They're old cartoons. Who cares?" Yes, I realize, but you gotta practically preach. And Disney, once again, the pendulum has swung so far the other way. If they were just like, we apologize. That's not us anymore. We're kind of like moved back. So they're like evil now. They're still evil. They're evil then, and now they're just evil now in a different way. So they can suck it. What makes this way worse is that they have the same exact excuse as those people, you guys, those people out there who their retort is like, it's just the times, right? They had a warning label on all the movies we listed stating this program is